is going to happen, and the electricity becomes palpable between the two of them. You can almost feel it in the room, and you feel those shivers down the back of your neck. And I've been warning the kids to do this. It's a great idea to gently put your hand on the person's cheek or on their neck, just to allow that electricity to travel from your body to their body before the actual kiss happens. And then the last part of the kiss is the actual kiss itself, where the lips connect and it becomes a moment. And across the board with almost all the students, depending on the age they were at, with all the students, they all agreed that the second part, the anticipation, is the part that's the best about the kiss, which is not the kiss itself. And I find that really interesting, that that's where the romance actually lies. It's in the anticipation of things.
And they're right. They're absolutely right. That is Lei Wen Pham, illustrator for the new book, Lunar New Year Love Story, the author, Jean Luen Yang. We thank you both so much, and happy Valentine's Day.
And happy Lunar New Year.
Day.
And New Year.
And happy Lunar New Year.
Yeah.
And you can see Lei Wen Pham's beautiful illustrations of the lion dance at hereandnow.org.
Falling out of love with your car? Consider donating it to us this Valentine's Day. We can turn your Honda, Toyota, or Ford into something you still do love. That's more of NPR, WVTF, and Radio IQ. We'll even tow your old car away for free, and you'll get a tax break. Turn your car into the programs you love this Valentine's Day. For more information, go to our website, WVTF.org or RadioIQ.org, and thanks.
Support for Radio IQ comes from the Nature Conservancy, for nearly 70 years protecting Virginia's lands and waters from the Eastern Shore to the Allegheny Highlands. Learn more at nature.org/Virginia.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and your NPR station. From MathWorks, creators of MATLAB and Simulink software for technical computing and model-based design. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com. And the Museum of Science in Boston, dedicated to inspiring a lifelong love of science in everyone in museums, classrooms, and online, offering engineering design challenges, digital experiences, live presentations, and more. MOS.org.
It's Here and Now. You may have heard on our show or others about data manipulation allegations against cancer scientists at Dana-Farber, the prestigious research center. Now, as Dana-Farber reviews about 60 papers, universities and journals are scrambling to protect themselves from fraud accusations and to prevent data problems in advance. For more, let's bring in Angus Chen. He's a reporter with our partners at STAT, the Health and Medicine publication. Angus, hello.
Hey, Scott.
So you have reported, we've spoken to you about the allegations against Dana-Farber, the cancer researchers, which we'll talk about. But first of all, you report that research centers, academic publications, more broadly, are working to find or prevent problems in their studies and data. What are you learning about what they're doing?
Yeah, so I think a lot of universities and academic journals are starting to use the same tools that, data sleuths, image sleuths are using to find errors in the first place. So that's like AI image analysis tools. Examples might be Proofig or Image Twin, to try to spot these duplications and stop them from entering the final manuscript before it's published.
And what are these AI tools, like if an image is copied and pasted, the AI will find it? Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly. So there are experiments where the result is literally like an image, and these tools will check to see if any of these images are duplicated or copy and pasted in ways that are inappropriate or improperly labeled or something, duplicated in a way that's not supposed to be. And if it sees something that's sort of identical in these experimental results, it'll alert the software user. So universities and journals are doing this to try to help, more easily screen papers for potential errors in this manner.
Yeah, and try to find them perhaps before they go out in a publication or before a university kind of releases it. Now, it sounds pretty egregious, right? If an image is copied and pasted or photoshopped. But help us understand, in some cases, could it be actual fraud, but in other cases, they could be inadvertent?
Yeah, that's definitely right. I mean, I think when people are making scientific papers, there's a lot of complex figures that draw on, years of data, tons of experiments and files. And so it's easy to imagine how someone could accidentally take the wrong file twice and put it into the paper. It's not that they're trying to deliberately deceive the reader. They've just accidentally grabbed the wrong image twice, or they've grabbed the wrong file twice and put it into the paper. There was a study done by the Journal of Clinical Investigation that found that when they looked for errors in about 200 manuscripts that were submitted to their journal, about 27.5% of those studies had image problems, but almost all of them seemed to be accidental issues. Only, I think, in that paper, they found only about 1% of papers appeared to be deliberately altered or fabricated, or have sort of what they called more serious transgressions.
Mm, mm. Now, as we're waiting for Dana-Farber to come back, because they're poring over some 60 papers that their researchers have done, we're seeing more allegations of research misconduct reported to the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, more than doubled over a decade. Is this because we're seeing more actual problems, or are we just looking harder for them?
I think it's that we have more tools now. So the tools to look for these problems have become more ubiquitous. And so it looks like there's a lot right now, but it's really like because people are looking across time for potential issues.
Yeah. And Angus, finally, for those who say, boy, these allegations are roping in Dana-Farber. There are some against, famous names like Dan Ariely, the behavioral economist. For people who say, oh my goodness, so much is fabricated, I can't trust the science anymore. I can't trust the cancer science anymore. What's the response from those who are kind of watching this? Is there evidence for widespread misconduct, or for now, not yet?
I think what we see in some of the data is that most of the science that's out there is not fabricated, at least not deliberately, sort of willfully fabricated. Most science is done by people who are honest and trustworthy people with integrity. I think it's important to think about, when you look at scientific results, to always keep in mind that science is also just an imperfect process. The peer review is an imperfect process. Confidence in science really comes from multiple people, multiple labs using multiple different methods to replicate results. And, that has something.
like to invite all who desire to stand for a moment of silence and to join the board in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon and welcome to our meeting for February the 13th, 2024. Regular meetings are held on the second and fourth Tuesday at 3 p.m. Public hearings are held at 7 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month. Deviations from this schedule will be announced. The meetings are broadcast live on RVTV 3 and will be rebroadcast on Thursday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Board of Supervisors meetings can also be viewed online through Roanoke County's website, www.roanokecountyva.gov. Our meetings are closed captioned, so it is important for everyone to speak directly to the microphones at the podium. Individuals who require assistance or special arrangements to participate in or attend Board of Supervisors meetings should contact the clerk of the board at 540-772-2005 at least 48 hours in advance. Please turn all cell phones off or place on silent. Item A, opening ceremonies. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford.
Here.
Mrs. Hooker.
Here.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Here.
Mr. North.
Here. Item B, request to postpone, add to, or change order of agenda items. Are there any requests to postpone, add to, or change order of the agenda?
No, sir.
No, sir.
None.
Okay. Mr. Kaywood.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would like to request that the board consider the addition of an additional topic for discussion during closed meeting under item N pursuant to section 2.2-3711 A1 of the Code of Virginia for discussion or consideration of a potential vacancy on the Western Virginia Water Authority Board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lubeck.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and I also have a request to add an item to the board's agenda. I request to add as item E2 a resolution approving Roanoke County Public Schools interim agreement for pre-construction and tree clearing services for the new Career and Technical Education Center, as well as renovations and additions to the Glen Cove Elementary School and W.E. Cundiff Elementary School.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the requested additions to the February 13, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, there is a second. Is there any discussion on the motions? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford.
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes. Item C, proclamations, resolutions, recognitions, and awards. Item 1, resolution of appreciation to Martha B. Hooker for her service as chairman of the Board of Supervisors in 2023. Ms. Hooker, would you join me at the podium? Thank you. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to please read the resolution.
At a regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County, Virginia, held at the Roanoke County Administration Center on Tuesday, February 13, 2024. Resolution of appreciation to Martha B. Hooker for her service as chairman of the Board of Supervisors in 2023. Whereas Martha B. Hooker served as chairman of the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors during 2023. And whereas during Mrs. Hooker's term as chairman, the county achieved a variety of accomplishments, including historic tax reductions and relief, resulting in a savings of nearly $8 million for Roanoke County citizens and businesses. An agreement with Roanoke County Public Schools that provides record-setting funding of $130 million for school capital projects. More than $1 million awarded to Roanoke County Police to fund 16 school resource officers within Roanoke County Public Schools, 14 business expansions and announcements with $130 million in new investments and over 1,700 jobs created. The announcement by Governor Glenn Youngkin that Wells Fargo would invest $87 million to expand and modify its customer support center, leading to the creation of 1,100 new jobs. The opening of the Galen College of Nursing inside Metis Plaza in the Oak Grove area. The grand opening of Carillion Mental Health inside Tanglewood Mall. The opening of Vistar Eye Center in the Hollins community. Funding awarded for additional infrastructure improvements at Woodhaven Technology Park. Hosting the USA Cycling Amateur Road National Championship race at Explore Park. And continued successes of the county's McAfee Knob Trailhead Shuttle and additional state funding to expand the service. Whereas the board recognizes Chairman Hooker's contribution to the economic growth in Roanoke County throughout her term, and whereas Chairman Hooker emphasized sound financial strategies and practices and promoted regional projects and initiatives to benefit all the residents of the Roanoke Valley. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County, Virginia, does hereby extend its deepest appreciation to Martha B. Hooker for her collaborative and steady leadership of the Board of Supervisors as chairman during 2023, and for her belief in democracy and championing of citizen participation in local government.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Congratulations to you, Ms. Hooker. At this time, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved. Oh,
Second.
second. All right.
Is there any, let's not fight over it, guys. Is there any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion on the motion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford.
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker. Abstain. Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Why, certainly. Do any of the board members wish to comment?
Certainly.
Mr. Radford?
Why not? We'll start on this end. Martha, just looking at all those bullet points in the resolution, that is a lot. And you did a great job. You know, the biggest thing that sticks out to me is the $130 million for the school. That is going to be felt for years and generations, and that's huge. And I'm glad you were at the helm, helping steer that ship, for the four of us. So that's, kudos to you. Glad you're back here with us, and as vice chair. But thank you a lot for serving.
Martha, I was very pleased and honored to be your vice chair last year. And I think when citizens look at that resolution and we look at what we accomplished under your leadership last year, it's a significant amount of benefit to the citizens of Roanoke County. To me, I focus on tax relief for our citizens, your leadership in terms of negotiating the memorandum of understanding for the funding for career and technical education, which is right in terms of your wheelhouse, your specialty that your career has been involved in. And it was just a great year. And I think when we look back at last year, I think it'll go down as one of our best in Roanoke County. So thank you.
Wow, Martha, it's kind of hard for me to be able to top either one of them, especially since I wasn't here last year. But I do want to congratulate you and thank you for all the help you have given me since I've been appointed. And I look forward to working with you and continuing to watch your accomplishments.
And so, Ms. Hooker, last but not least.
I'm going to step over here. I would just like to say, it was a great year. And I truly believe, Mr. Chairman, that it was a great year because of the composition of our board and the expertise that came along with each individual board member was just really exceptional. And we're a great team. Tammy, you fit right in. While we miss Jason and his chair and position is in a different chair now, you're going to fit right in. And I look forward to what the new year brings. And I expect that this is going to be, not to set the bar too hard, Mr. Kaywood, or expectation too high, but I really expect that we're going to continue this trajectory of growth and good news. So thank you for all that you all have done to make it an exceptional year. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to add a few color comments, if you will. There's not many counties in the state of Virginia that can see the accomplishments we saw last year to reduce taxes by $8 million to our citizens and businesses, and then loan $130 million to address school needs, especially the CTE. What a proud accomplishment. As I go around the state and share these stories, people just look at us and say, how did you do that? Well, it's because Roanoke County is managed well, and we have a solid board of supervisors that always tries to make something happen. And as I said the other day, we don't like to lose, we like to win. And that goes for tax reductions and our schools, because without our schools, we wouldn't be the community we are. And I so look forward to the day we break ground on the CTE.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Martha. And let's get a picture here. Is this okay? Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, recognition of Roanoke County employees recognized by the Roanoke Magazine as a under 40 young professional. Chair recognizes Richard Kaywood, County Administrator, and Megan Baker, Director of Economic Development.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a really special recognition for me. Well, I'm really not giving it, I'm really reporting it to the board, because a long time ago, way back when I was actually under 40, I received this recognition myself, and it feels so cool to think back to what that felt like when I got that, and then to see what has turned out to be a number of employees of Roanoke County be recognized in a similar way. It just really warms my heart. And in this year's cohort for 2024 for the Roanoke Magazine's 40 under 40, which again honors kind of the rising stars of the young professional class of the Roanoke Valley, they have recognized Danny Poe. And they did that for a number of reasons. You've all just talked about some of them. So when Martha was being recognized, a lot of that is really about economic development. And Danny's an integral part of a really good team that works day in, day out to deliver projects to the county, and really to a greater extent to the Roanoke Valley. So when you think about it, that's where folks work, that's our tax base. And Danny, focuses a lot on our existing business relationships, and that's really where a lot of our growth comes from. So a good example that we celebrated last Friday was Mack Truck. That's an existing building or business, and they announced a major expansion. And projects like that don't just happen by accident, they happen through hard work. So in addition to being an integral part of this team, she is also in a leadership role serving as the chair of Leadership Roanoke Valley. So I've gotten to see her in action at that setting. Paul and I had the privilege to go speak to that group here a couple of weeks ago. And that's been an important relationship for the county because, again, many of our earlier career folks who are just setting the world on fire have been a part of Leadership Roanoke Valley, and Danny's been a part of leading that group, coaching, actually many of the employees that you see sitting before you right now, where they are under your leadership at Leadership Roanoke Valley. And she had a very bright career before coming to the county, and one that I really liked, and I'm going to flip the page to try to get the title right, I might get this wrong, but she was the business manager for the airport. And while she was there, she helped start an event that I think is one of the coolest events in the Roanoke Valley, which is the 5K on the runway, where they literally have the runway closed, there's all these fancy signs, and then you get to run a 5K basically up and down the runway and back, which is kind of neat. And I'm a little too old and big to run those things anymore, but my son did it this past year. It was a really neat event, and While Danny was no longer at the airport, they still don't all speak to me because she's over here, but she got that started, and that's just a really cool event for the Valley. So without further ado, I want to recognize Danny. I know there's a resolution to read. I know Megan will probably have some comments as well, but this year you were in a class of one of Roanoke County's honorees for 40 under 40.
Thank you very much. Megan?
I just want to say that Danny's passion for improving the quality of life in Roanoke, it's contagious. She's dedicated not only her professional career, but all of her activities outside of work as well. As Richard mentioned, she's in her second year chairing Leadership Roanoke Valley. And that in itself, she's dedicating her time to developing that next group of leaders for the Valley. And then also, I want to highlight how she's active with the Roanoke Regional Chamber. She's engaged with Wasena Elementary PTA, where she is dedicated to improving education for her 4 kids. So I just am amazed at everything Danny does for both Roanoke County and the Valley.
Thank you, Megan. And so, Ms. Poe, would you like to add any comments to those already made?
Yeah, they've done a great job covering it, but I appreciate the support that Richard, the administration, Megan have given me here at Roanoke County, so thank you.
Thank you. And do any board members wish to make any comments? Ms. Hooker?
So I would really be remiss if I didn't just say that all of those accomplishments for the last year were really so focused on what a great economic team we have. And you all are fairly new to the role, and yet we just have had unheard of successes. So Danny, thank you. Thank you for what you've done for Roanoke County, and we really acknowledge the work that your whole team has done. Megan, thank you. Danny, you've been exceptional. Thank you.
I think Amy wants to take a quick picture over here. So
Let me add some comment to that. The Economic Development Department in many industries is one of the smallest, but most influential and impactful departments, and there's no exception here at Roanoke County, so keep up the good work.
And before you walk over there, hang on. Danny, that's a great honor, to be any 40 under 40. That is, that's sort of a milestone to hit. And I agree with what Ms. Hooker said. You're a great asset to the team. Megan, you too. We just look forward to more stuff, more good news. Thank you.
Okay. No more comments? You move to your picture. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item C3, resolution recognizing Ashley King, Director of General Services, for her exemplary service to Roanoke County. Richard Kaywood, County Administrator. Mr. Kaywood.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and it was kind of really neat that these came together at the same meeting, which really wasn't planned ahead, but I want to recognize Ashley today. What, for lack of a better title that I've challenged staff to come up with, is really what you might think of as the county's employee of the quarter. And we have over 1,000 folks in our ranks, and so it's a real honor to select one for that. And there's a couple of unique things about Ashley. First, she is the first sitting department head that I've recognized in this fashion. I did recognize one other person who became a department head after the fact, but this is the only sitting department head I've ever brought before you for this recognition. And one of the most unique things about Ashley is how long she has worked with the county to be as young as she is. So she started here when she was 16 years old. And she has continuously worked for the county in various capacities since she's been 16, which is quite amazing. And she told me right before we stood up today that she plans to work here until she's at least 60. So she is on track to be our longest tenured ever employee. I'd like to work here a really long time, but I'm not going to live long enough to compete with Ashley, so that's really neat. And when I first came to the county, she was a buyer in purchasing, and then she advanced to become a senior buyer. Then eventually she became procurement manager. Then after that, she became Assistant Director of General Services and now its Director. So I've had the privilege to watch her grow in her career really the whole time I've been at the county over the past 11 years. But I will say she's done excellent work at each and every stop, and I think most recently the board really got to see Ashley's leadership when we had the snow event and just the updates you got with our trash removal operation and just how dedicated she and her team were to, we were going to hit every address no matter what it took, but you all kind of in real time got to see that unfold. So when your citizens called and asked about trash, they could see that. This is the kind of work that I've seen Ashley do the entire time I've worked here. But despite all the great work that she's done here, the real reason that I selected her for this recognition, because we've got lots of great department heads, is something that she does outside of her job with Roanoke County. So she has been on the board and active in the Roanoke-Salem Chamber for the past 7 years, serving most recently 2 years as its president. And I have watched that group just transform under her leadership. So while I've attended events over the years, now they have the problem of too many people want to come, they don't have enough room, they're struggling with running out of food because there's so much demand to come to their programming. And it's really what Ashley has brought to that group that I think has really led to a lot of that success. But again, that just highlights our relationship with the business community for a very important part of our region and our county. And then the last thing, the note I want to end on, because it's what I think of when I think of Ashley. Every Wednesday morning after this board meeting, I have a meeting with my staff, which includes primarily the department heads and the constitutional officers. And sometimes, depending on how long the board meeting has gone, we're a little tired the next day. Even I can get talked out after a long board meeting. But I go around the room and ask if anybody has anything to say. Ashley always has something to say with a huge smile on her face, and she always injects positive energy into the room. So with that, I think Ashley is incredibly deserving of your recognition. You do have a resolution to affirm that recognition. I just couldn't think of a better person to give this recognition to today.
Thank you, Mr. Kaywood. Will the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution recognizing Ashley King for her exemplary service to Roanoke County. Whereas, in November of 2008, Ashley King was hired by Roanoke County as a buyer for purchasing, and during her tenure has been promoted to senior buyer, purchasing manager, and assistant director of general services, and director of general services. Whereas, Ashley has led and managed the general services department for the past 2 years. And whereas, Ashley fostered a culture of servant leadership in general services that focuses on citizen satisfaction through high-quality service and real-time communication. And whereas Ashley also represented Roanoke County on the Salem-Roanoke County Chamber Board as president for the last 2 years, where she led increases in growth and engagement that resulted in 107 new members, over 1,600 attendees at events, and a 98% retention rate. And whereas Ashley served as the executive director for 6 months and oversaw the recruitment and onboarding of the new executive director, and whereas Ashley advocated for economic development and networking in Roanoke County and Salem amongst business professionals, legislative representatives, local government leaders, and apprentices. And whereas Ashley oversaw the revision of the Chamber's program of work, which resulted in programming that led to increased sponsorships and community participation. And whereas Ashley's positive attitude and commitment to the county makes a difference every day in many of Roanoke County's citizens' lives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County expresses its deepest appreciation and the appreciation of the citizens of Roanoke County to Ashley King for her dedicated service to Roanoke County, and further, the Board of Supervisors does express its best wishes for her continued success in the future.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll move the motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes, sir. Ashley, I just want to say, we go back a long time.
Yes,
In
we
fact,
do,
when you
sir.
started with procurement. I'm very glad to see you don't have your little scooter with you, and your foot is much better.
I'm, you know, back at it.
But I want to say thank you, because your work with the Salem Regional Chamber, Roanoke County Chamber, I think just reflects the leadership of a lot of the next generation in our county. And we saw it with Danny Poe, we see it with you, and I think that's fantastic. And we're seeing that next generation of leadership come forward, and you're a key part of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford.
Yes, and I would like to add, Ashley, you've been really great working with citizens in the Windsor Hills when we've had issues. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker.
Yes, and I'll save my comments.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes. Now, do any of my fellow board members wish to comment?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So Ashley,
I know.
You know, there's a lot of citizens across Roanoke County, and in the Catawba District, citizens have a lot of opinions. And you are always, without exception, just so gracious, and your customer service and dealings with the citizens is just superb. And we just truly appreciate that in you, because it really reflects our attitude on what we want for the county. Servant leadership was just such a great adjective for you, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley, for everything you've done for Roanoke County. Everything you touch is successful. And I'm sure one day you might be competing to follow in the footsteps of your boss over there,
There you
Mr.
go.
Kaywood.
You never know, 20 years is a long time, so.
But you're going to be here for a long time.
I just want to thank you all so much for the recognition, and thank Richard and all of county administration. I take a lot of pride in working here, and I definitely look forward to continued success for the county. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the awesome team of public servants I get to work with every day in general services in the entire county, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. With that said, we'll get your picture. Thank you. We're moving on now to item D, briefings. Item 1, briefing to introduce Rhonda Perdue as the newly named Roanoke County Chief Deputy Clerk to the Board of Supervisors. The Chair will recognize Madeline Hanlon, Assistant to the County Administrator. Ms. Hanlon.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I'm excited to stand up here today to introduce Rhonda Perdue as our newly named Roanoke County Chief Deputy Clerk to the Board of Supervisors. As many of you know, Rhonda has been at the county for about 27 years. She's been 27 years an employee of Roanoke County, most recently in the Roanoke County Circuit Clerk's Office. The last few weeks it's been a pleasure to get to know Rhonda Perdue. She's been helpful, has a positive attitude, and is willing to help out in any way. And I'm excited to have you all get to know her as well as I've gotten to know her the last few weeks.
Thank you very much. Any of my board members wish to comment?
Welcome aboard, Rhonda. We look forward to working with you.
And ditto here. Welcome aboard, Rhonda.
We value your experience and look forward to a good tenure here at the Board of Supervisors. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes. I just want to say welcome aboard, and I am excited to be able to work with you again. I have had the privilege in my real everyday job of working with Rhonda at the circuit court, and there have been a number of times that I have gone up to try to search for something in that madhouse, and she was always willing to help. And sometimes when one door closes, a window opens, and I think we are very lucky to have been able to obtain you.
Absolutely.
So welcome aboard. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Congratulations. Glad you're here.
Ms. Perdue, would you like to comment?
I agree. When one door closes, another one opens, and I'm It's really blessed to be here, and I'm excited, and I can't wait to get to know all of you and work with everybody in this room on a completely different capacity. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item E, new business. Number 1, McAfee Knob Trailhead Shuttle Expansion. Memorandum of Understanding with the City of Salem. First reading and request for a second reading. Chair recognizes Paula Benke, Transit Planner. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the board. I come before you this afternoon with an ordinance to approve an agreement between Roanoke County and the City of Salem regarding the expansion of the McAfee Knob Trailhead Shuttle by adding 2 stops in the City of Salem. As many of you are aware, the shuttle launched in September of 2022, and we've had great success. In the 160 days of service, the shuttle has provided over 2,200 reservations from the exit 140 park and ride to the McAfee Knob Trailhead parking lot. Recently, in November of 2023, the trailhead parking lot closed in preparation for the construction of the pedestrian bridge. With the closure of the parking lot, along with rider feedback that we have received from hikers over the last 2 shuttle seasons, with needing to restock essential items throughout their hike, regardless if it was a day hiker, through hiker, or section hiker, we have found the need to add 4 additional on-demand stops that will be added in the 2024 season. The 2 stops added in Salem are located at 101 South Broad Street and 601 East Main Street, or otherwise known as Longwood Park. By adding additional stops, the shuttle is meeting the strategic needs outlined in the Triple Crown Area Transit Feasibility Study to enable long-term protection and preservation of AT resources while improving the visitor's experience. The shuttle will also provide connectivity to local resources in Salem and allow for travel throughout the Roanoke Valley with access to multiple Valley Metro stops. The Board of Supervisors accepted and appropriated $170,709 from the Department of Rail and Public Transportation and $42,677 in a local match for the McAfee Knob Trailhead Shuttle expansion in September of last year for fiscal years 24 and 25. All fares collected from the operation of the shuttle are retained to offset the cost, and there is no cost associated with this MOU. Staff recommends approval of the first reading of the ordinance and scheduling of the second reading for February 27, 2024.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance and to schedule a second reading for February 27, 2024?
Mr. Chairman, the trailhead parking lot is in the Catawba District, and so I wholeheartedly make a motion to approve the first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple quick comments there, Paula. This is just a great example of regional cooperation, and we appreciate your efforts on behalf of the county, working with the City of Salem to make what we have even better and to expand the territory. But I want to just remind you, while I'm thinking about it, if you haven't, when we have the ribbon cutting, be sure to extend an invitation to Dr. Ray Smoot of the Commonwealth Transportation Board, because his efforts in large part helped us in the official launch of the original.
We actually already have, and he's planning on speaking.
Thank you very much. That's great. Okay, moving on to item 2, resolution approving Roanoke County Public Schools interim agreement for pre-construction and tree cleaning services for the new Career and Technical Education Center and renovation/additions to Glen Cove Elementary School and W.E. Cundiff Elementary School. Chair recognizes Peter Lubeck, County Attorney.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As you may very well recall, in April of last year, the board adopted a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the board and the Roanoke County School Board regarding the funding of 3 capital projects, the funding of a new career and technical education facility, and renovations to Glen Cove and W.E. Cundiff elementary schools. The MOU set forth the expectations of the parties that the Board of Supervisors would provide a maximum of $130 million to help fund these 3 projects. Roanoke County Public Schools is now in a position and desires to enter into an interim agreement with Branch Builds, Inc. Pursuant to the authority set forth in the Virginia Public-Private Education Facilities and Infrastructure Act of 2002, which we affectionately refer to as the PPEA. And this interim agreement is for pre-construction and tree clearing services for the projects. Sections of the Code of Virginia of the PPEA state that before a school board can enter into either an interim or a comprehensive agreement under the Act, the agreements must be reviewed and approved by the local governing body that appropriates funds to the school board. And following the completion of the services outlined in the interim agreement, which is before you today, it is expected that the board will again be asked to approve a comprehensive agreement and maybe two separate comprehensive agreements for the execution of the projects. And before turning the time over to Dr. Nicely, I would like to personally thank school staff, including the school's attorney, Stacy Haney, for being receptive and responsive to suggestions that Roanoke County staff shared. I would also like to recognize and thank Ms. Haney, who is here today present. You cannot see her, but she is present by telephone, and I know that she is ready to answer any very difficult legal questions that you may have for her. And at this time, I turn the time over to Dr. Nicely.
Okay, welcome, Dr. Nicely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Very pleased to be here this evening for this next step in moving forward these projects. I believe earlier they were referred to as an historic investment in the capital needs of the school system. And so we're very pleased to be at this step moving forward the renovations, the very much needed renovations to two of our elementary schools, Glen Cove and Cundiff Elementaries, as well as the game-changing CTE Center that's going to be built over on Peters Creek Road in Roanoke County. So I want to thank the board for your partnership in making that happen and making that a reality. And it'll be here as soon as before we know it. I want to also express appreciation for Mr. Luback and the county staff, for all of our partners as well, who are going to be entering into getting this done. It's truly felt that way with working with not only our staff, but the county, as well as our business partners through the design build team. Everybody's truly invested in making this a successful project. Would like to recognize we have with us Burton Austin from Branch Builds, Chris Phillips from RMM Architects, Benji Linkus from Ascent Engineering, as well as Mr. Kegels is here, Ms. Peterson, and so we'll be able to answer hopefully any questions you have. The presentation will be given by Mr. Michael Masheri from RMM Architects, as well as our consultant from Skanska, which is Curtis Ellswick. And so we'll start with Mr. Masheri.
Welcome.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I have a brief presentation to share on, give us a status of the design. So there's a quick view of the proposed entrance to CTE. I first wanted to start on overall project schedule and where we are. So this is what we call a critical path schedule, shortened version just to show us where we're going over the next 6 months. So starting from the left to where the team was given letter of intent, notice that we are moving forward toward an agreement. That's sort of where we are since November to where we are in February, working toward that agreement. And meanwhile, we're hitting that critical design development phase. So with that, there's a series of fast track packages that include civil and structural, and also the other trades, architectural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, are working in this design development phase, which will bring us to the start of April. So by that time, we're really diving into the submission to the agencies to go through about a 2-month process for site plan review and permitting. So just to back up before April, and what's critical is the March period for the tree cutting. So we'll be cutting down trees on the CTE site to avoid that bat moratorium period that starts April 1st. And then, of course, the big key here and kind of dead center is taking advantage of the summer months for what's critical and occupied site and starting early phasing work inside of the elementary schools. And then, of course, fast forwarding to the end, these projects, all 3 schools are projected to be completed by July 31st of 2026. So we're going to start here first looking at both Glen Cove and W.E. Cundiff. Both projects built early 1970s, have not seen significant renovations since then. There have been some security improvements along the way. But what's key here is there's a tremendous improvement to just site circulation. We're bringing the buses to the back. So just providing a relief at both sites in terms of the bus circulation, that will make the front area improve in circulation for parent drop-off and increase parking counts for both faculty and staff. Both schools have additions toward the front, so that will address. It's a little different situation from Cundiff as opposed to Glen Cove, where there's a little bit more growth. So there's a little more addition shown on Cundiff than it would be on Glen Cove. If we started with Glen Cove, we know that some of the shortcomings that are in the original design with the open plan concept don't provide for good security, ventilation, limited or almost no classroom daylight, so that's a big part of our design. If you see on the right side, the areas in light blue are providing for a design to get all the exterior core subject classrooms to provide, have access to exterior wall and daylight. Also in red, in a big key of any type of primary or secondary design is the resource and special ed programs. They are a growing need. Folks need space. So that was another element to balance along the way of the programming. In this case, Glen Cove is going to get a new front main entrance along with an administration area. So we're going to turn over the existing admin area to support more of the classroom space. Here's just a view from the exterior, and I have a short video I want to share. So having a new front entrance that will allow, a more secured entrance into the administration area, but also creating an architecture that's compatible with the existing conditions. So here's just a view as we come down toward the front. Covered canopy drop-off area. And now if we turn toward W.E. Cundiff, a lot of the same approach, but there is a bit more growth there. So in terms of a new cafeteria dining function, that would be an addition over on the right side here. And then we still have a similar scope in terms of a new administration and entry point on the left side. And again, using this exterior walls to support our classroom functions. And on the lower levels, you have the pre-K through first grade for good access on the main level. Second floor, very much the same approach. And not really shown here, but we were working through a very descript process for phasing to make sure everyone is safely, both construction and public being able to have, construction go underway during this 2-year period. So there's going to be certain zones of areas of classrooms being constructed along the way. So very compatible in terms of the exterior. When you compare both schools, very similar approach, still being mindful of the existing conditions. So there's a view on the right side of the new cafeteria and covered outside area for any outdoor dining. That cafeteria is sized if there were to be any community or after-school hour events that could serve that area. And then just a short video of that too. And then with New Career Technical Education Center. So this, we're starting here by showing kind of what makes up the project and all of the programs that we have spent, over a year, first starting with addressing and sizing what would be in the new CTE. We know that Arnold R. Burton has served the community well, and the program and demand has grown. And we're happy to see that we've landed on a building that's approximately 120,000 square feet. Just today, I've been part of some early meetings. We've been having these design development meetings with these folks to really go through all the spatial needs of each program and going into greater detail on the floor plans of just how each program will operate. So it's been a good process. We're in the middle of this. This will span over the next 2 months. So here's a view of our site. As we know, Peters Creek is labeled here and down here. So the idea is this new Career and Technical Education Center will have a prominence on the site. We'll have a really good civic presence as well. It's always critical when we look at these type of new designs, how it's strategically laid out on a new site to take advantage of natural daylighting. We'll have a brief slide to show how solar could be a part of this. And what's key here is you have really the public realm on the front side, and then the secured exterior project space access to the rear with the CTE main larger shop areas. Now here's a closer view of the floor plan, L shape, which allows for natural expansion on both ends if needed. So you have the double loaded corridor, makes it much more efficient. Just to quickly run through, you have your areas of Center for Transportation hosted on this side, and then areas that need larger shops as well for building trades and Woods Lab. And with the main entrance here, that will provide good access to a large commons area. It's kind of the hub of the school, so it gives area for students to gather before, during, or after school hours, and also be a place to serve the community after school hours. There is a second floor to this. It's pretty modest, but it is staged on this west wing. Engineering will be involved, mass communications, cybersecurity, game design. We have met with all these folks. This plan has developed quite a bit since our initial start. And then just to start to see where we were with conceptual phase and detail phase during the PPA, there was always quite a bit of study for how this might look. We want to appoint, appropriate materials that make sense for the county between the use of the brick and the stone and the glass and the articulation of how that might look with still a well-defined entrance. A few other views here. And then at the rear, which is where, a lot of the support spaces for these labs can occur. It's also a secured setting in the rear, so you can have a large community events. It's not just back of house, busy mechanical yards or anything like that. We're looking at this as utilizing every part of the site for an activity. And here's just a view as we were to look into this commons area, which could serve a variety of functions, career fair, stage, and exhibits. And we'll look at a video that we're actually considering an operable wall that can divide the space so you can have the flexibility within that commons area to use as you wish between two different areas. And then one of the key things we want to note is the High Performance Building Act, which came into law in July of last year. There are requirements there that you have to approach with certain compliance paths, whether it be LEED, IGCC, Green Globes. One of the key points that we know comes out of this is a need to address solar in some capacity. So we have started that process to analyze how this building would support solar photovoltaics. So there's considerations to be taken place, of course, that we are working with Roanoke County Public Schools to understand whether the budget will allow to go the route of owning versus leasing. But the analysis here is there's a lot that goes into this that we're still modifying and working towards in refining these estimates. So there's a lot of information on this, but you have the total building usage is one number, and then you have an electric usage. So in this case, we're looking at being able to, in this design, it would have the ability to cut just the electricity by 65 to 80%. And here's a quick view of the video. So you get to see this, get a sense of the scale of this building as it sits on the site. We come through the front door, always finding ways to invite light into a space in a controlled way. Here's that large multifunctional commons area, and then the ability to divide the space as you see this operable wall that can come down. So between classrooms, lectures, and then the CNA program, and some more of the shop areas for auto service. And then back to the service areas. We look at that as highly flexible area, being able to move these portable barriers as you wish to kind of tailor to the needs of each shop. And that concludes my part.
Very interesting. Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Curtis Ellswick. I'm a Senior Vice President with Skanska, and I get to do Part B of the presentation, as we'll call it, which is an overview of the interim agreement.
Very good.
But I got to find my presentation first. So some of the topics I wanted to cover is providing you an overview of the process. How did we get to where we are today? Also touch on an overview of the interim agreement, the terms, the scope of that agreement. Highlight some of the services that Skanska is going to provide as a consultant to Roanoke County Public Schools, as well as the oversight that Roanoke County Public Schools is going to provide on the project, and then, of course, answer any questions you may have. So as you know, this process started a long time ago, but the PPA process started actually in June of 2023 when Roanoke County Public Schools received an unsolicited proposal from Branch Builds, partnered with RRMM Architects. At that point, they evaluated the proposal, decided to consider it, and they issued an RFP for competing proposals. And so in August, they received competing proposals. They received 2 of those, and after evaluation, the committee decided to select the Branch Builds proposal and one other one for further consideration. And so they received detailed phase proposals in October, and in November, they interviewed both of those teams. And at that point, the committee recommended that Branch Builds with RRMM be the team that they would move forward with, and which the school board approved. Since that point in time, we've been negotiating an interim agreement. So throughout the month of December and into January, Skanska, working with Roanoke County Public Schools, their attorney, as well as the county's attorney, have been negotiating the terms of the agreement. We actually settled on the form of agreement that the county uses for an interim agreement and for PPA projects, which help expedite the process. And so we have submitted that contract, that interim agreement, to you for review and your approval this afternoon. Some of the components of that agreement include that contract. The interim agreement is for design phase services only, so that's for design, pre-construction services by Branch Builds, which includes cost estimating and scheduling and those kind of services, as well as mentioned earlier, tree clearing at the CTE site. That upon execution of that contract, it allows the design build team to move forward through design, all the way through 100% design documents, also allowing us to work to update the cost estimates throughout the phase, look for ways to save money while we do it. And then at a later date, as your legal counsel mentioned, we will be presenting or branch builds will be presenting a guaranteed maximum price proposal or proposals that will get rolled into a comprehensive agreement or agreements that will come back to you in the next few months. Our role as Skanska, we've been retained by the school system to really serve as an extension of their staff, their in-house staff, to manage the project. And so some of the services that we'll be providing is, here soon, we'll be helping to negotiate the terms of the comprehensive agreement or agreements, as we did the interim agreement. We'll be there to help manage the budget, tracking all the costs, reviewing and approving invoices, reviewing any change orders, which Branch says we're only getting credits back. So he coughed. But reviewing of plans for constructability, helping you implement an owner direct purchase program. It's another way to try to save money on the projects. And then assist with procurement. We still have to, outside of the branch builds contract, procure some geotechnical investigations, materials testing, FF&E, as well as commissioning services, and then keep the board updated on progress. We will also be providing full-time eyes and ears on site. Our plan is to provide a full-time person on the CTE building, and then another full-time person splitting their time between the two elementary schools, working, like I said, in conjunction with Roanoke County Public Schools and their facilities staff while we're doing it. So we'll be there looking, on a day-to-day basis, watching the progress, making sure you get a quality project, which I feel confident you're going to anyway, but manage the schedule, monitor the schedule, all the way through construction, helping with the move, the phasing, the closeout of the projects. And this is kind of our staffing plan in working with Mr. Kegels. Like I said earlier, splitting our time between the projects. They will have their own dedicated project managers that we'll be working with or working alongside, because they know how Roanoke County Public Schools works and their policies and procedures and how you get things done. And then we'll be also working with Mr. Kegels as part of his staff on this project through completion. Any questions for me?
Any questions, board?
I got one.
Mr. Rathner, go ahead.
Thank you. When do you, I know you're going to do the comprehensive agreement later. When do you anticipate that occurring?
We're, April and May, you want to address that? Okay. May and June. We've been working through that all the way through this morning, so.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Burton Austin with Branch. Right now, we anticipate going to comprehensive agreement on the elementary schools by the May 14th Board of Supervisors meeting, and have that ready for your review and approval prior to that. As far as the CTE Center, our goal is the June 11th Board of Supervisor meeting, having it prepared for your review prior to that.
Okay, thank you. That answers your question.
Part A. After you get the CDs, you're going to come up with guaranteed maximum.
We're going to come up with our plan that we were discussing and negotiating. We're going to come up with the guaranteed maximum price when we present the comprehensive agreement.
Okay. So you submit it. We got a peek at let me pull it back up. Exhibit 6. Who produced that? Did Branch do that?
That's our schedule, yes, that is
Okay.
our cost schedule. So we do intend to go to a guaranteed maximum price prior to 100% construction documents.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have several questions, but let me wait. I'm not sure if you have other speakers, and maybe anybody else, or is this it?
That's the presentation, and I can play MC and get to the right person
Okay.
as far as.
Well, then I have 3. And I believe you may have answered the one. I want to give credit to staff, county attorney, Ms. Haney, for working so long to try to put this together. I guess my bias, my concern is, I hate having this dumped on me today or last night and having to vote on something. So my question is, what would happen if this board delayed a vote on this till its meeting on the 27th? And I'm gathering we would do terrible things and violate federal law with respect to bats. Is that correct?
You can go ahead, I'll fill in the blanks.
Actually, yes, sir, you're exactly correct.
So we got to do it now.
And I apologize for the unfortunate nature, which brings us here today with very limited time we've had to review. I know Mr. Lubbock and everybody here have worked on this tirelessly in the last 2 weeks. But yes, sir, that is correct. If we're not able to alleviate the issue at the CTE site prior to April 1st, we will be delaying this project for over a year.
You think we get it done by April 1st? If we start, I guess, tomorrow?
That is our intent, yes, sir.
Okay. Because I think about a couple weeks ago, we saw a bunch of branch folks across the street at one of our local restaurants. So they were all working, so we appreciate that. My second question is, and I guess Dr. Nicely, I see roughly we're looking at $6.4 million is the cost for the interim agreement. What's the source of that? I mean, are those capital dollars that the school's already accumulated to cover that cost?
So, sorry, up through, hold on, let me do one little math. Up through the current year budget, we have $35.8 million set aside for this project. We've been setting aside cash reserves and bond allocations since 2021 for this project. And so we have enough money to go ahead and pursue an interim agreement now. And then we have enough in the balance to go with a negotiated price when we get there.
Okay, thank you. My final question is, looking at Exhibit 6, it appears we're a little bit over the $130 million that the board has allocated under the MOU. I hope, I expect that the final agreement, the GMP, will be within the dollars allocated. But worst case, if something happens and we need more money, as I read the materials, was there an alternative provided for Glen Cove and Cundiff not to do the new additions? I know we're doing a renovation. The one addition was, I forget how many thousand square feet for 6,000 or 5,000 for the one school, and was it 11 or 13 for the other? Was there an alternative not to do those if it comes out that we don't have enough dollars to do all the projects?
Is that?
I'll let Ms. Peterson answer the question as far as the dollars. The bottom line answer to your question is no, as far as your renovation question. And the architects can explain that, but in order to alleviate the open classroom issue and also meet code as far as egress and hallways and so forth, there's no way to meet those needs, meet the number of classrooms that are needed without additions.
Okay. So you have to do that in order
Yes, sir.
to meet all those requirements?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Any other questions?
I didn't get finished. I
Oh,
thought we
sorry.
were, I didn't realize you had a
Sorry,
couple
Dan.
more.
Go ahead.
Piled up here, sorry. Back to the gentleman from Branch. Back to that exhibit, you've got two lines there. You've got construction cost limit of all three projects, $125 million. Then down below that, Mr. Mahoney referred to the $132,814,000. Can you tell me what's going on between those two numbers?
If I can step in.
Okay.
So the way that their presentation is laid out, provides a construction amount for us. And then below the line, to get to the 132, are soft costs that were estimated by a branch that will be paid by Roanoke County Public Schools, if that makes sense.
So everything below the 125
Correct.
is being paid by,
That'll be direct out of our pocket,
Okay.
paid to the vendors as needed. And that's all those amounts are estimates that they have given us.
okay, so I thought I saw a line there, line 40, or, yeah, line 46, additional funds for PV. Solar, are we talking about solar, PV? Okay, thank you. All righty. And then, y'all mentioned high performance in 3 different services. Have y'all picked which one you're going to use? Lead, green,
VEAS through IGCC.
do what?
IGCC, which is compatible with VEAS, VEES. That's the compliance path we're taking.
Okay, gotcha. All right. And then in exhibit, staying with the exhibit, you mentioned in your report that you've done your rock analysis. You got 97,000 cubic yard. You kind of clumped it into the site work, but what's the real cost of that rock? Do you know?
At this point, sir, I have to go back and check. I don't have that number on top.
You
of my
don't?
head.
Okay, all right. Okay. And then the other one is your third-party inspector is Skanska, correct? You're representing,
Project manager.
okay, all right,
And inspector.
okay, all right. And one other question. Okay, so the owner contingency, I had a question about that, just a little under $2 million, and so that's being handled by the school, those funds. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank y'all very much for that information.
Thank you. Do you have a comment?
No, thank you.
Okay, well, I'll wrap it up then. I just got a couple comments or questions. One question, 2 comments. The square footage is 120,000, I thought I saw. You know, I've seen numbers 150, 140. So is that just the interior, or does that not take into account exterior?
That's a gross square foot number.
Gross.
It's 120,000. It's a little over that right now. We'll say 121 to 122.
Okay, all right.
Gross square footage.
Someone told me, and I don't believe everything I hear, but I'm going to pass it along anyway. Someone said if you're not using federal money, you don't have to worry about the bats. So, you know, you might want to see if that matters. Not that it might matter, but I'm just saying that. I'm happy the schools are using the MOU effectively. I'm glad that you've saved money for the rainy day, if you will. It looks like that's coming in handy. And I just want to share this, that any funding we receive for the $20 million request from Senator Hidd and Delegate McNamara's budget line items has to pass the House and Senate respectively and cross over, and then has to go before the Finance Committee to present a final budget to the governor. Whether we get that or not, we don't know, but we're sure hoping we get something. And that can go towards the CTE to make it even more complete in size for more programs for students and adult education. So more news on that as we come along, but we may not know that until the governor strokes the budget, which we certainly hope it's not going to be in September like it was last year. It'll be in June because the state won't operate after July 1st because there is no budget. Last year there was an interim budget. So stay tuned on that, and we look forward to getting something, if you will. That's all that I have, and at this time, if there's no more comments, is there a motion to approve the resolution approving the proposed?
Phil, can I make a
interim-
comment?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
this has nothing to do with the building of it, but I do want to say, and I dare say I'm the only one here, but I actually attended what started out as Hardy Road School from 1973 or 74. I can't remember when I started kindergarten, and went all the way through that school. I have 4 children who have went all the way through that school, and it is exciting to see what y'all are planning on doing with it. So I'm excited to see it and can't wait to see the finished product.
Thank you.
So,
And me too, because my grandson's probably going to go there unless we move. So, yeah, I second that comment. So at this time, is there a motion to approve the resolution approving the proposed interim agreement?
I'll make the motion,
I'll-
Mr. Chair.
all right.
To approve the proposed interim agreement.
Thank you. Mr. Abbott, is there a second? I'll second the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion on the motion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford,
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Looking forward to June 11th, thereabouts. At this time, I'd like to move on in the agenda to item F1, emergency ordinance accepting and appropriating federal lands access program funds in the amount of $536,000 from the Eastern Federal Lands Highway Division of the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration and allocating $242,372 of Roanoke County funds for the Roanoke River Greenway from the Blue Ridge Parkway to Explorer Park. UPC 110155 in the Vinton Magisterial District, and I might add that due to time constraints for this project, it is requested that second reading be dispensed with upon affirmative vote of 4/5 of the members of the board, and that this matter be deemed an emergency measure pursuant to Section 18.04 of the Roanoke County Charter. Chair recognizes Megan Cronice, Assistant Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I created a presentation, actually Lindsay Webb created this presentation, because it's very difficult to talk about one piece of the East Roanoke River Greenway without talking about the others. We also have some great news to share and photos of that great news. So with that, what I want to start with is on the northwestern end of the East Roanoke River Greenway segments. This piece is completed as of last year. It's a 0.4-mile section on Virginia Recreational Facilities Authority property north of the Blue Ridge Parkway with a trailhead parking lot. It's funded through VDOT Transportation Alternatives and Regional Surface Transportation programs. And as I said, it's completed in September of 2023. So there are images there at the bottom. The next piece is the Highland Road Crossing section, which is 0.3 miles long. This is funded through VDOT Transportation Alternatives program funding as well and county match funds. This piece connects the piece on the ground that we just talked about and goes underneath the Blue Ridge Parkway to connect with the Roanoke Valley Resource Authority closed landfill. So with this piece, the consent agenda item H3 refers to the additional funding that the board transferred to this project in October to get this moving forward. So this piece is under construction, along with the next piece that we will talk about. Construction began in December and will be completed this coming December. You can see clearing pictures at the bottom. Trees are currently being cleared right now on this segment. So the next section is the subject of this board item in the emergency ordinance. This is the Blue Ridge Parkway to Explorer Park segment across the closed Roanoke Valley Resource Authority landfill. This is 1.9 miles with a trailhead parking lot. Construction is currently underway, along with the last piece that we talked about. The base bid and bid additive 1, we were able to move forward with. Again, construction started in December and will be complete this coming December. Roanoke County has received funding from the Federal Lands Access Program. We've had 2 rounds of funding from them. And then this is a third bit of funding from the Federal Lands Access Program we received just February 1st. What that new funding facilitates is bid additive 2, which is the missing gap in the Greenway section. So that is what the emergency ordinance pertains to, is needing to appropriate the funding so that we can move forward with construction on this piece as quickly as possible because of the bats. As I say, they're returning from vacation on April 1st, so we have to clear trees before they return. This map shows how the project is broken up. So the piece in orange is the Highland Road Crossing piece that goes underneath the Blue Ridge Parkway that's under construction. The piece in purple is Virginia Recreational Facilities Authority property where the 0.4-mile segment is already constructed. This piece in red is the base bid section for the flat project across the closed landfill. Bid additive 1 is here in yellow. We did have enough funding with the funding that the board allocated to the project in October to get this piece under construction. And this blue piece is what we now have funding for through the Federal Lands Access Program to build this missing gap to Explorer Park. So the final piece is the Explorer Park Greenway. And this piece takes us all the way from the end of bid additive 2, all the way to Roanoke Point, all the way along the river in Explore Park. So this piece will be advertised next week, and we anticipate issuing the notice to proceed in November so that we can again get past the time when the bats are here and they go on vacation, so we can clear more trees, because there are a lot of trees that are going to need to be cleared in Explore Park. So we anticipate that construction to begin mid to late November, after the environmental time of year restriction for tree clearing ends. We anticipate that construction to end in December of 2025. And this project has VDOT Regional Surface Transportation and Carbon Reduction Program funding on it. Our engineer's estimate and our available funds are very, very similar numbers. So we have asked the TPO if we might have some additional flexibility, or what I like to call back pocket money, in case we need it. So we do have a request for $500,000 being considered. As soon as we receive bids and know if we are short or if we are on target, then we will let the TPO staff know so that we can adjust that figure appropriately. But that is extremely helpful funding, so that we anticipate having 0 county dollars on the Explore Park Greenway segment. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. As are Lindsay Webb and David Henderson, we make a fantastic team to fund and build greenways.
Thank you very much, Ms.
You're welcome.
Cronice. Is there any questions for Ms. Cronice? There being none, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
You make a motion
I'll
to
make
approve
the
the ordinance?
motion to waive the second reading,
Okay.
emergency.
Emergency ordinance due to time constraints, thereby dispense the second reading upon the affirmative vote of 4/5 of members of the board. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any discussions on the motion? I just want to comment, is there anybody's pockets of money you forgot to ask for? Because I love it when you ask for other people's money.
And that's what we
And
do
the
first.
answer is no, right?
And we ask for additional transportation alternatives funding too, and we're told very quickly no from VDOT. But Federal Lands Access Program, we are very grateful to them for moving around pieces on their end to facilitate this extra $500,000 so that we can build the entire project, so that we should have 4-ish contiguous miles of greenway on the ground within a year and a half.
Very good. Keep
So
up the
it's
good
very
work. I know
exciting.
it's probably a laborious to write all those requests for grants, but they are paying off, and we appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make just a really brief comment from the cheap seats on the side here.
As long as it's brief.
I just want to echo what Megan said, that she and Lindsay and David are just an outstanding project delivery team. These things are very complicated. There's lots and lots and lots of federal rules. There's lots of oversight. We've been audited on these projects several times. We're doing very well. So it's really a testament to Megan and her overall program leadership, and working with Lindsay and David. I think it's just very few counties of our size can do projects like this successfully, and it takes a lot of work, and again, a great, great team.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford,
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes, thank you. Moving on to item 2, ordinance accepting and appropriating Stormwater Local Assistance Fund, known as a SLAF grant, in the amount of $531,425 from the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, along with $531,425 for the steam restoration of a tributary to Mud Lick Creek along Canner Drive in the Windsor Hills Magisterial District. First reading and request for second reading. Chair recognizes Tarek Manier, Director of Developmental Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, member of the board. The good news is I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. The other good news is we have been selected by the Department of the Environmental Quality of the state to receive a grant of $531,425 as 50% of the total cost of $1.06 million to do a restoration. This is the 5th one in a row to receive such a grant from the state, and we'll be coming back before you again very soon for the 6th one. This is another also a win, you might say, where we are using somebody else's money to do restorations. This is 50% of the money will be coming from the state, and the other 50% is appropriations from the Monsanto funds. This particular stream restoration is unique in its way of put together because it's a public-private partnership as well. This particular restoration in the area that Mr. Radford is very well familiar with, back in 2018, when we had the heavy storm, the homeowners in the Cantor area experienced huge damages to their properties due to some of the silts and erosion that happened. So in particular, for this particular request, five homeowners in the area, or residents in the area, back in June 2022, approached the staff, asked for help. So we put together a team that helped study part of that unnamed tributary for Mudlick Creek. We also had to work with the school, and in particular, the high school, Hidden Valley High School, and we received approval by yourself, by the board, to obtain easements in order to prepare and do the restorations for that stream. So the request before you is to accept and appropriate in the first reading the amount of $531,425 as a 50% local match with the 50% additional money that's available from Monsanto litigation settlements. If it was approved for the first reading, would like the board to agree to schedule February 27 for the second readings. I'll be glad to address any questions. I know I was brief. I was trying to hurry up since you had a very long afternoon.
Thank you.
Any
Todd.
questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, and I'll also prepare to make the motion. So is this stream restoration north of the dam, up above the dam that's on Hidden Valley High School?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how far up the stream? How many houses is it going up?
5 homes.
Okay, and it's in that valley, it's going under Cantor?
Yes, sir.
And going on the other side of Cantor, going on up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and those are the easements that we acquired?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Thank you, Tarek. Do you have a motion?
Yeah. I make the motion, we approve the first reading of the ordinance and schedule the second reading for February 27th, 2024.
I have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, further discussion on the motion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford.
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes.
Thank
you. Moving on to item G, appointments. Do any board members have an appointment that has not been given to the clerk and included in the board report for agenda item G? Nobody has any, okay. Is there a motion to approve the list of appointments set forth in the board report for item G?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford.
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes. Item H, consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by one resolution in the form or forms listed below. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion? Is there a motion to adopt all matters on the consent agenda? I'll move a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford.
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes. Item I, citizens' comments and communications. Do we have any? Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item J, reports. Is there a motion to receive and file the reports that have been included with the agenda on item J?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Yes.
Mr. North.
Yes. Item K, reports and inquiries of board members. We will start with Vice Chair Hooker.
So just a couple of quick comments regarding Glenver High School again. We have some great news. We've got the boys swim team, our Regency champions, as is the wrestling team, Regency champion. So it's exciting, and I really feel like we'll get some more visitors soon. I hope so, anyway. I want to welcome Rhonda. Rhonda, it's a pleasure getting to know you. Looking forward to working with you more. And just a quick comment about Mack Trucks in the Catawba District. Special thank you to Governor Glenn Youngkin for supporting this Roanoke County expansion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Mahoney.
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to remind and tell all the citizens that on this Thursday, February 15th, from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, we have a community meeting. That community meeting is the second community meeting we have for the Starkey Road and Ogden Road streetscape improvements. This is all part of attempting to implement many of the provisions of our 419 plan. This community meeting will be here in this building up on the 3rd floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Radford.
Yeah, I have one, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, in the consent agenda, I just want to recognize the Friends of the Roanoke County Public Library for donating $25,000, and it's being used for the summer reading program. And that was very important for a rambunctious young guy like me trying to read books in the summer when I could go. Anyway, I was able to read books, believe it or not, and I contribute that to that program. So thank you, Friends of Roanoke County Public Library. Jim? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did you read Huckleberry Finn in the summer?
I probably did.
Tom Sawyer? I know I did. Ms. Shepherd?
The only thing that I want to touch base on is, wow, this has been a whirlwind. I want to thank all of the department heads for meeting with me, and I'm going to call it training me, or should I say bringing me up to date on everything that's going on in the county so that I don't feel so lost. So thank you for that. It was a great, I would just say it's a pleasure going to Mack Truck, being able to be there, meet the governor and his wife, actually hop up in a Mack truck and see what one actually looks like, and tour the plant. I had no idea that facility was even there, and if you get the opportunity, you need to ride up and check it out because it is a nice facility. I've also been to a couple community meetings, one in Benton and Montgomery Village, another one in Mount Pleasant, and listening to the citizens and concerns that they have, and they have all been very welcoming, and I want to thank them for that. And also, I have attended the Roanoke Valley Chamber annual meeting, which again was, thank you for that invitation and welcoming there and having dinner with everyone and meeting a lot of nice people. So this has been I hate to say this has been a lot of fun. So thank you all for giving me the opportunity to do this.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. And I'll wrap up. And we did have a groundbreaking and celebration last Friday, February 9th, with Governor Youngkin and Mrs. Youngkin, who attended the groundbreaking for the Mack Truck expansion. Economic impact, $14.5 million investment for 51 new jobs and a significant $72 million for the whole region, thanks to John Hull and his calculations. I also want to thank Governor Youngkin, the VEDP, and Megan Baker, our Economic Development Director, fellow board members, and County Administrator Kaywood. This project was definitely a partnership working together, and we thank Mack Trucks for their investing in Roanoke County and continued growth. Just a few comments from the General Assembly. Senator Hidd had a couple bills. One of them was local planning and zoning. They want to move that from 14 to 28 days public notice. That bill moves over to the House for consideration and crossover tomorrow. The VEDP change from 100 acres to 50 acres to be eligible for grants also was unanimously approved in the Senate. It also moves over to the House for approval. Delegate McNamara's bill, HB 1328 on transient occupancy tax, was laid on the table, which means it died. And we really weren't excited about that bill, and he knows that, but it was really brought up for discussion purposes before the Tax Committee at next year's session. We also want to thank Delegate McNamara for sponsoring budget item 125 Hashtag 11H, to restore K through 12 hold harmless for sales tax on food, which will help out if it clears the Senate. Also want to give you an update on Catawba Hospital. Delegate Rasul tells me he's asking for $2 million to start renovations in buildings 15 and 17, which is a total of about 98,000 square feet in year one, which is fiscal year 25, and then to go back next year and ask for more money for future renovations of the Catawba Hospital. And that's all from the General Assembly, and that's all I have today, except I want to remind people that you can probably see this on our website. If you go on there, there's a lot of meetings coming up in the community. I encourage those at home that see this to go online and look at it for details, but the next one coming up after Thursday's meeting at Starkey Road, Ogden, streetscape improvements is Carson Road safety improvements, which is in your district, and you and I will attend that at Bonsack Elementary School on March 7th from 5 to 7 p.m. And then we'll have some more news in March at Peters Creek Road and Williamson Road safety improvements, and we'll get details on that later. At this time, we'll move on to work sessions. Number one, work session to review the Board of Supervisors fiscal year 24-25 projected general government fund operating budget revenues, and review updates to the County of Roanoke fee compendium and outside agency funding. Lori Gerhardt, Director of Finance and Management Services, and Steve Elliott, Budget Administrator, will be with us in a work session. Momentarily, the board will recess to the third floor for the work session. However, before doing so, I would like to move that the board go into closed session upon the completion of the work session. Item N, closed meetings. I move to go into closed session pursuant to Code of Virginia Section 2.2-3711A, Part 1, for discussion and consideration of a prospective appointment to serve on the Western Virginia Water Authority Board. And I move to go into closed session pursuant to the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711, subparagraph A, Part 5 of the Code of Virginia, for discussions concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry, where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. Specifically, the board will discuss potential business opportunities in Cave Spring, Catawba, and Windsor Hills magisterial districts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes. At this time, we will recess to the third floor for the work session, and following the closed session, upon completion of the closed session, we will proceed on to certifying the resolution. Thank you very much.
Of free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, data from the federal government, according to a press release from the school. The U.S. Department of Education has been trying to roll out a new FAFSA process, but that effort has seen continued delays. Tech officials believe they'll be able to provide families with financial aid information sometime in mid-April. And a note of disclosure, Radio IQ is a service of Virginia Tech. Virginia is home to more than 300 wineries, but until recently it was not known for its vintages. Now, however, that may be changing. A leading wine magazine has proclaimed one part of the state the top wine-producing region in the world. Sandy Hausman has that story.
Wine Enthusiast has nearly 1.5 million subscribers, presumably people who are passionate about wine, and their editorial staff rated areas